September 11 overview. On September 11, 2001, the terrorists affected with Al-Qaeda's hijacking flew airplanes into the World Trade Center in New York City and the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. Nearly killed 3,000 Americans were killed in the attacks. The administration of President George W. Bush declared a global war on terror, sent troops to Afghanistan, where the ruling Taliban regime was providing safe haven for the Al-Qaeda, to Iraq and Osama bin Laden, purposely harvesting weapons of mass destruction. Concerns of the U.S. national security resulted in the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, and it was signed by the U.S. Patriotic Act into law. The development sparked a debate over constitutional rights and protections of proper constitutional rights and the protection of the proper balance between the security and liberty of democracy. Road to 9/11. The origin of the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001 stretched back to the U.S. involvement in Afghanistan in 1980s and after the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979. Osama bin Laden, the son of an extremely wealthy Saudi Arabia family, went to Afghanistan, organized the Arab militia resistance against the Soviet cooperation, and sit still on the grip of the Cold War. The United States supported the anti-Soviet militia, providing them with weapons and training. After the Soviets withdrew from Afghanistan, bin Laden turned off his lights, and the United States have condemned the U.S. support of Israel. He criticized the president of U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia during the First Gulf War. Bin Laden has attacked the civilian military targets in multiple countries. Bin Laden organized the September 11 attacks that involved hijacking and flying airplanes into the World Trade Organization in New York City and in the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. This almost killed 3,000 Americans and injured over 6,000 more. The War of Afghanistan and Iraq. After September 11, George W. Bush declared a global war on terror. The first front of this war was the ruling of the Taliban regime, providing the Al-Qaeda safe haven for Operation Base, which they plan and carry their terrorist attacks. The U.S. invasion of Afghanistan was supposed to serve the supposed purpose. Throughout, the troops enjoyed the success of driving Taliban power out bin Laden to escape. Eventually, they regrouped, and the launching of the major offensive convicted of Afghanistan and one of the longest, coolest war in American history. In March 2003, the United States invaded Iraq. The Bush administration claimed that the Iraq dictator ties to Al-Qaeda have hero bombing of mass destruction. U.S. troops rapidly defeated Iraq's armed forces, toppled Osama bin Laden from power, but weapons of mass destruction was never found, nor evidence surfaced that they were definitely trying to make one of the terrorist network of the mastermind of 9/11 attacks. Although the election held firm in Iraq 2005, the city violence, the intent of violence, decoration into a civil war, the War on Terror, and the War of Home. The War on Terror was fought in Home, in front of the Homeland Security Act in 2002. The Department of Homeland Security is to criticize and coercion, the analyze, and the intelligence of the U.S. coordinations in its efforts to prevent future terrorist attacks. On October 26, 2001, President Bush signed the U.S. Patriotic Act into law that authorized using deadly force and wiretapping on other surveillance measures. This had a lot of progress and protests in future years. 2004, the public debate over the use of enchanted intelligence technique, extracting information from suspect terrorists, events of torture of Ababa Bibi imprisoned in Iraq, led to U.S. investigation human rights abuse. Former detainee reports that he had been beaten and sexually assaulted many times routinely. Their military claimed that these incidents were few bad apples, but the U.S. disagrees. What do you think? In this democracy, what kind of proper relationship should be balance of security and liberty? What do you think should evaluate President Bush's decision to go to war in Afghanistan and Iraq? What is the global war on terror compared to the past military conflicts, and such is the war in World War II and Vietnam? Let me know. Comments below. Peace.